Hey guys, Pitmaster here. Um, got a new idea. Kind of new but old, but I'm just kind of repackaging it for anyone out there that is a martial arts practitioner, a person that wants to stay safe in the street and works out, practicing self-defense moves, or a martial arts instructor, or a fight trainer. I'm gonna call it the go-to. And sometimes we tell our students what to throw all the time, and we forget that sometimes what they are gonna throw instinctively might be the best punch. Because I think we'll all admit the best punch is the one that lands. So you could teach all kind of crazy fancy punches, all kind of technical punches, but the best one is the one that actually lands and does damage to your opponent. And a lot of times, that punch is the most natural punch that your fighter or your student will throw. I'll give you a perfect example is Dan Henderson. I mean, that's not a pretty punch. It's not like a reverse punch. It's not like a Mike Tyson overhand right. It's not like a beautiful Joe Frazier left hook. It's just a right hand. It doesn't really take that much training. It probably wasn't taught to him. He probably was just a wrestler and he was fighting in pride and he knew he had to hit people too, so he just started hitting the bag. And that right hand, which usually the power hand or the power side is usually the most natural to throw. So it seemed to work for him. I think he won numerous titles, made millions of dollars, and knocked out way too many people with that punch. And it's just a natural, his go-to. When he got hurt, or when your student gets hurt or your fighter, they're gonna go to their go-to, whatever comes more naturally to them. In other words, if you teach them, if they don't like the left hook, they're more used to throwing a right hand, and they get dazed or exhausted, they're gonna go back to their go-to punch, whatever comes naturally for them. If they get dazed and they're kind of out of it, they're gonna go back to their go-to. So, what I'm saying here is, focus on your students' go-to. Everyone has a go-to. So when you're training, just have them go and train that one punch over and over and over again, and that should be their strength. All fighters should rely on their strength. Work on your weaknesses, but rely on your strengths. When the chips are down, when the going gets tough, you're going to rely on your strength. Okay? Now, there are certain there's certain rules, like, if you're on the bottom and you're trying to, work your way out of a mount, you're not going to work on your go-to. You're going to have to learn mount escapes, escape from the bottom. If you're in a clinch, that go-to just won't work when your opponent's head is right next to yours. You need to work on underhooks and overhooks and getting away, etc. That go-to isn't going to work when your opponent's trying to take you down. You need to learn takedown defense. So you need to work on your weaknesses and get a well-rounded game going, but focus on your strength and have your students focus on theirs. Maybe during training or bag work, you could just say, all right, drill your go-to. And they could just work on that one over and over and over. And that could be their go-to. Because in a street situation, the adrenaline is just flying. That power punch, the most natural punch, is the one that's going to come out. That natural punch is going to be their most powerful and predictable and functional and effective punch. So let's work on the go-to. Let your student decide what his favorite punch is or his favorite strike, and let him work on that, and let that be his Dan Henderson right hand, his Mike Tyson overhand right, his Joe Frazier left hook. And a really good way to find out what your student or your best go-to, your best strike or your best technique is hold a pad out for them and say, hit this as hard as you can, and just see what they do. they might naturally surprise you and throw a left hook. I don't think so. I bet you 99% of all people that are starting out that haven't had prior training, if you say, hit her with your hardest strike, they're going to go with their dominant hand and they're going to throw some kind of variation of a right hook. Not everyone though. Some people might throw a straight punch. Whatever it is, tell them, hit the bag as hard as you can. Hit this mitt as hard as you can. Or when they're sparring, what do they always go to when they're sparring? Okay? And that way you can help them develop their go-to strike. What's going to save them in a street situation? What's going to win them a UFC title? Okay? So help them to develop their go-to, because that's what's going to make it for them. That's what's going to give them success in a street situation, a UFC situation, or just sparring at your gym. Okay? Don't discourage them. Don't say, oh, that punch is sloppy. Don't throw that. If it's landing, it's good. Whatever punch is landing and which one they want to throw the most, let them do it. Now, there are rules, like I said before. Like if they're throwing this and this left hand stays down, tell them, keep your left hand up. You know, keep your chin down. There are some basic rules to go along with this, but let people express their go-to technique. All right? Thanks for coming, guys.